everybody, welcome back to the shop. Got something new here to show off. So this is a boring bar, believe it or not. I don't know what it weighs, maybe we'll put it on a scale here, but it is extremely heavy. So this is 2 3/4 inch diameter by 36 inches long. Solid steel block that started off, I think, about 5.5 by 6.5 or something like that, by 6.5. And anyway, so this guy will bolt directly onto the top of the compound, and you can bore a big old hole with a lot of rigidity. So I don't know that this is ever going to be useful in a project, but would love it if I did have a project at some point that needed a boring bar like this, because now I've got one. So this came from my friend Adam. We talked about him in the Moriseki videos. So this is actually came from that Moriseki. He had 2 big boring bars and didn't need both of them, probably doesn't need either of them. He gave me one of them. I probably won't need it either, but man, is it fun. So if nothing else, we'll have a nice piece of shop art here, and I don't know if anybody's got one bigger. If you do, show it off. But this is an absolute monster. So today's project is actually also going to be for Adam. This is a project for one of his customers. He needs some help on it, and he's got other things going on. So he hired me out to do something for him. And what we're going to do is fairly simple, but it's going to take some creativity and a lot of time. So this is 1.5 inch cold rolled round bar. This piece is 60 inches long. I got another piece that's about 33 inches long. And what we've got to do is slot from end to end with a 7/16 inch end mill. And then we're going to use a key cutter to run right down that slot. So what this is going to do, it's for an architectural piece of some kind, and what we'll have is T-nuts basically hanging in the bottom of this, and it will suspend something. So that's the plan. That's what he needs me to do. Obviously, my mill does not travel 60 inches with a piece of material on it, so we're going to have to get creative on how we cut both of them actually. So that's the challenge. It's going to be pretty simple, like I said. It's only 2 tools. I've got a end mill, and then we're going to stick that key seat or keyway cutter in there, and hopefully nothing breaks. We'll see what happens. Now I'm curious, so let me go grab the scale. We'll weigh this sucker, and then we'll go get on the mill. Okay, that seems about right. 93 pounds, 4 ounces. Try to remember to put up the kilograms and grams, but yeah, that sucker is monstrous. And somebody on Facebook said, made a funny comment. They're like, yeah, what's the deflection on that thing just under its own weight? It's like, yeah, that's a pretty good question. I wonder how much this thing does dip down just because of how heavy it is. So anyway, there's our monster boring bar. Now, unfortunately, we got to stop playing and get some work done. So here's our starting point. I decided to push this bar down towards one end of the table because I'm going to have to move it anyway. I figured I might as well not start on the extreme end of the table where it's going to hang down a little bit. So anyway, we're all centered up. Our end mill here is a 4-flute ALTIN coated end mill, solid carbide. And hopefully this will last us the entire job. I don't see why it won't, unless I screw something up. So the plan is we're gonna take, get a nice combination of depth of cut and speed. I don't want to just go full depth because it's got to go down 3/4 from touching off. And so I don't want to do full depth and then it just runs really, really slow, and it actually ends up taking longer with more wear on the tool. So we'll go down maybe 50 thou, come down and cut, come back over and over again until we get down to our depth, and then we'll move our clamps and just keep on trucking. got everything moved over. This time we'll be able to take a longer pass per cut, and I think we're gonna increase our depth of cut. We'll go, let's try 100, and if it means we have to go too slowly, then we'll go back to a shallower cut. But it took a while, and we've got a lot more of this to do, so let's see if we can get away with a heavier cut and not damage anything. As far as rigidity goes, I'm sure somebody's wondering that, if not everyone, but I can't, like pushing on this bar, it's always telling when you look at a liquid up against a, coolant or oil up against a workpiece. So pushing on this thing with all the leverage I can get, the liquid doesn't move. Same thing with on top, I kind of beat on it before I took it out of the first setup. So I think our setup is plenty rigid. I've got a nice aluminum block here pushing down on the cut end of the workpiece. So I think we're good, but just wanted to point that out. Yeah, that sounds happy. I don't think we'll have any issues with that deeper cut. The chips are still coming out mostly silver, just a tiny bit of straw color there. So yeah, that's still pretty gentle. As you can see, we're all set up to do the 60-inch piece. This has been kind of a pain in the butt, as you can imagine. Don't like moving machines unless I really have to, and in this case, I certainly had to. So I've got a little fluorescent glove here to keep me from quite so easily walking right into that thing. But we've got our end mill set up. I think we have enough travel in the directions we need it. But yeah, that's a 60-inch bar of 1018. So yeah. So we've gotten through the small part. I've got it all complete and ready to roll. And I've slotted the long part now. So we can check out tool wear here. Not too significant, but it definitely has worn. It's kind of amazing to me. Modern carbide, this is not the most expensive, fanciest tool, but to remove that much steel in unideal circumstances, it needed to spin a lot faster and travel a lot faster to get the best life out of it, but still held up incredibly well. So our other tool is this Moon Cutter Company T-slot cutter, 25/32 by 21/64. So as you can see, it's gotten a little bit worn on the neck. The coating is rubbed off a lot there, but that doesn't really matter. The cutting edges are still decent shape. So that's what we're going to use next on the long piece. And one thing I wanted to show off, just because it's cool, and I think a lot of guys would like to have something to replace this style of Allen keys or hex keys. So there's nothing wrong with these. They've worked well for me the last couple of years. The problem is, let's say I want a 3/32, I've got to push some or most out of the way to get it out, or else it's going to get bumped. So that's the downfall with these. I'm going to keep them around because They're still good for hard use, and if I need to wail on something, I'm gonna go for a cheap one. But I did buy a replacement set, and these are Wiha ErgoStar. So pretty similar looking. They are long. I don't know exactly what the standards are, but these are longer than your typical Allen keys. But the cool thing is, it's actually in this plastic holder that you can buy separately if you've got a high quality set of L hex wrenches. And the way it works is you just grab the big one or second biggest one and just spin it, and it opens up like that. Kind of a butterfly deal, I guess, and close it the same way. So you never have to worry about getting other wrenches out of the way to pick the one that you want. That's all it takes, is just a little spin. Back over on the mill here, we've got our piece of material laying down in the bevel of the T-slot, so it's aligned with the table in that direction. We've got our slot milled from end to end, which is good. It's not a super finish, but it doesn't really matter. Milling a long piece like this and being able to get good finishes with just one pass is difficult. So we have another problem here though. We need to get it reoriented with the spindle. And the way we need to have that orientation is the bottom of our slot be parallel to the top of the table. And I thought of a way to do this when I was working on the small bar. It seemed like it was pretty simple and straightforward, and it was effective, so I'll do it again. I've got a slightly undersized gauge pen compared to the width of our slot. This is 435 compared to 4375 for the 7/16 end mill. So that is just lightly clamped in a V-block here. And what I'm gonna do is set that down so that it is in the bottom of the slot with the face of the pin directly flat and square on the bottom surface. And now, if we bring up our step block here, we can see that the pin is pointed that way, so obviously it's off by a lot. And as we rotate the bar, we can get that lined up with our step block. Now, because it doesn't really matter if this is like this or this, you know, our longitudinal setup for the bar is determined by the T-slot and the table. So that part doesn't matter. I don't have to have this thing lined up with anything else. It's just what we're trying to do is get the bottom of that gauge pen to where it is parallel to the surface of the table. And so by bringing it up like that, rotating our bar into position, we've got what looks to be a pretty close fit. So that is going to be good enough. Like I said, there's a million ways to do this. This is the one I thought of that's obviously quick and is going to provide enough accuracy for what we're trying to do. So I'll get this stuff out of the way and actually set up with our bar clamps and everything, and then we'll get started with our milling. I think we're ready to go. Got our spindle speed at 360 RPM. The tool has been touched off already. Yeah, I guess there's nothing to do but to do it, right? I'm gonna pull it out and see how everything looks. So far, so good, I think. It's a really inconvenient place for the camera. It looks all right. I think we need to go ahead and feed it a little bit faster. It's doing a bit too much dwelling on the cut. So what we have to do from this point is move the cutter to the end of the work. So we need to get the cutter back on the other end of the table is basically what we're trying for. Okay, here's our last cut. Had to open the garage door to have clearance for the bar. And we'll try not to make too huge of a mess, but probably going to. There we have it. That was a whole lot of time and work, but still only needed 2 tools to cut about 93 inches of T-slot. Well, guys, I think that is going to do it. Happy with this project. This was a pain in the neck for a lot of reasons. It was messy, a little bit complicated. There's, nothing I've machined this long. And so it was a learning experience for sure. But we got it done. And little T-nuts that were provided here slide from one end to the other, which is good. Just a little bit of deburring, and the bottoms of the slots don't look great, in my opinion, but they don't really need to. So if we wanted to, we could have set it back up and then just run the key seat cutter or the T-slot cutter in the bottom and just cut out, 3 thousandths or something like that, and done basically one long cut with low cutting pressure. Would probably leave us with a nice finish, but not that big of a deal that it didn't happen. So anyway, we have got this project done. It was good to get this out of the way. So the next thing we're going to do is take some heavy cuts on the Monarch. Hopefully be able to do that tomorrow, or well, probably Friday after work, and get that that little video edited as well. And then we'll move on to finishing up the chip pan for the Monarch lathe. But I am beat. It has been a long day, and then came home and did some work after work. So we will wrap up here. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps YouTube direct people towards the channel when there's a lot of activity like that. So if you would, please do so. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.